G'day, guys. Welcome back to Stat Chat Sports. You're here with myself, Steve, and Tazza for our Premier League preview today. We're looking back to week 4 of Premier League action with our regular segment, the hit, the miss, and the hold fire. Tazza, I'll take the reins here to start off with looking at the hit. I think it's fairly obvious, to be perfectly honest. We're looking at Liverpool today with a 9-0 thumping of Bournemouth. The joint highest margin in the Premier League era. There's been 4 different 9-0 wins, which is quite remarkable, to be honest. It's not every day that you see it. But 9-0 nonetheless, solid performance from Liverpool. We mentioned them last week. They were our hold fire, and we said that they needed a big performance to pump some life back into Anfield and to the fans and themselves to, kickstart the season, and they did exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we needed to see something, and boy, 9-0 was not. I would have been happy with 4 or 5, as would any.
Not expecting 9-0.
Any supporter. No. You should never expect 9-0, not in a league like the Premier League. But yeah, such was that everything that they touched turned to gold, which was what they'd been missing horribly. I mean, they were so off in the 3 fixtures before this game, but everything clicked. And Roberto Firmino, the guy that everyone was calling for his head, he's past it. He's gone. 5 goal contributions, 3 assists, 2 goals. I mean, none of them were exactly worldies or anything, but right place, right time. You got to be there. You still got to finish, and he's putting them on a platter for the rest of his teammates. So it was really good to see.
Yeah, look, they played some really good. I mean, let's not get too carried away. Bournemouth weren't great, but Liverpool just absolutely ran all over them. But everything just fell into place for him. I mean, Firmino's first goal with the deflected shot that just landed straight at his foot. The own goal as well. There was a couple of things that happened that just went right for Liverpool that on another day might not have happened, but nonetheless, they still scored, 7 other quality goals. And yeah, big for Firmino to get to have that game, because he was under some pressure, definitely. Obviously with Darwin Núñez coming in, and even last season and the season before when Jota came in, his position was put under threat, and with them missing, he needed to step up. And he did so. So fair play to him. Also, Fabio Carvalho with his first goal as well. A well-taken volley from himself. Harvey Elliott, I think that's his first goal in the Premier League for Liverpool as well. Quite an emotional one for him. I believe he had a loss of a family member a few days earlier.
I think it was his nan.
Yeah.
So
a nice, well-taken goal from him. And another Trent worldie as well, which we're starting to become a bit accustomed to.
He doesn't score normal goals, does he?
No.
I mean, for all his defensive frailties, he goes some way to making it up with those worldies. He seems to pluck every half a dozen games.
Yeah, so that well and truly kickstarts Liverpool on the right track with the win. And just quickly on the side of Bournemouth, the news dropped probably about an hour or an hour and a half ago that they have parted ways with Scott Parker after this result. I'm surprised, I'll be honest. 4 games in, they've already sacked their manager that gained them promotion. Look, I can imagine 9-0 would be incredibly difficult to, I suppose, come back from. He said it in his pre-game interview that it was his worst day in his managerial career. It's an embarrassment. He felt sorry for the players, the fans, which you can understand. But I don't know. I feel like the sacking is maybe a little bit too harsh.
Yeah, well, I mean, they versed City, Liverpool, Arsenal for 3 of the games. They got a win against Villa. What do you expect? I mean, 9-0 is 9-0. You can chalk those ones off. He at least deserved a couple more weeks to prove himself. I mean, if he goes back to back, if he goes and gets thumped 5-0, I'm not sure who Bournemouth have this week, but if you get thumped again, maybe you pull the trigger, but not straight away. I mean, 3 tough fixtures, It's pretty rough. I feel really sorry for Scott Parker having got them promoted. It's I don't know. It's a bit of a kick in the teeth for me.
No, definitely. And it leaves them leaves Bournemouth in just as tough a spot as they were before, because now they've got to find a manager, and I don't really know who's available and who's out there at the moment that can really come in and do a decent job for them. Yeah, I worry for him. I worry for him early days here.
Yeah, it's not the position you want to be in at all.
Let's look at our miss. Tazza, you're that guy. Who are we slandering today?
We're going to slander Leicester. I've got egg on my face a little bit here because I'm pretty sure I predicted them for a top half finish in our preseason predictions. And look, it's 4 games in, but you don't want to be getting off to this kind of start. This is a team with a fair bit of class in their squad. Something's clearly wrong, and I think it's going to end up in the sacking of Brendan Rodgers, unfortunately, because when you're giving up, I mean, they lost to a 10-man Chelsea. Yes, it's Chelsea, but it's 10 men. And that is still a good side that Leicester are putting down on paper. So that's poor. There's clearly some sort of disconnect that I think it's time for Rodgers to step aside and let someone else have a go with this pretty decent squad. But anytime that you're pretty much, the points were there for the taking. They've got 1 point from their first 4 fixtures. So it's just not good enough, and the writing's on the wall for Leicester.
Yeah, you can see this decline sort of happening since the start of last season. They definitely didn't hit the heights that they had the previous couple of seasons, and they've not started off this one well, actually, they've started it off worse. Let's just be honest. That they're scoring goals, 6 goals, that they're leaking, more. Obviously, 10 goals conceded, which is only the second, which is actually the second worst behind Bournemouth, who obviously just conceded 9 at the weekend. So, yeah, that's not great. And if the reports are true, I don't know how true, but it's something I've seen previously that Wesley Fofana could be on his way out to maybe even Chelsea. They're losing quite a exciting prospect and a young player there. So they're losing a player from a defense that is already leaking some heavy goals. Yeah, they're going to struggle. That needs to be fixed, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Rodgers on the chopping block.
Yeah, that Fofana from 75 mil, from what I've seen, that's a big fee. That, I don't know, the Premier League proven element to him. That's so much for me. I mean, people balked at Van Dijk. People balked probably fairly enough at Harry Maguire, but it's in that ballpark. But look, that's a lot of money, and I just wonder if, obviously, Chelsea have seen what they like what they see, and a couple of games at the start of the season probably isn't going to change their opinion of him. But you're not buying. You're spending a lot of money on a guy that's not setting the world on fire, but so that isn't. It's the rest of his team. It's 11 men on the pitch. He can't do it all, so there is that element to it. But yeah, Leicester have really, really got to turn things around quick, because they should be a top half team, and they're just languishing at the moment.
So where to here with them? Is it a change of manager? Because they're losing. They're starting to lose a couple of these players. It's Yuri Tielemans has been heavily rumored to be on his way out as well for a cutthroat fee, because he refuses to sign a new contract. Jamie Vardy's getting on. You've got Johnny Evans at the back, who's probably close to 40. They lost Kasper Schmeichel in the preseason, so they're losing a lot of these experienced players.
Yeah, I saw a quote from Brendan Rodgers, pretty much quizzed on what's going on with the club, why the results not there, and it was more or less the expectations from the board aren't aligned with our finances. So I think there's a bit of a disconnect in the upper echelons of that club, which is pretty worrying. It seems to be not blowing up from the inside in, but there's unrest in the boardroom, probably in the ownership. So look, I think Brendan Rodgers will be sacked pretty soon unless things turn around immediately, because it sounds like he really doesn't. He's not seeing eye to eye with the board and the owners. So I think the board will part ways pretty soon. And it's I don't like we said with Bournemouth, there doesn't seem to be an obvious candidate out there at the moment, but I'm sure. I mean, Leicester are an attractive proposition for a lot of managers out there, so someone will willingly step in.
Well, they've got United and United next week, so another tough fixture for them there. So they could end next week on the bottom of the table as well. So yeah, he's not got long left. I reckon he's got a week or two maximum left in him.
Yeah, I think it's next week. If they don't get a win like ASAP, it's they need to pull the pin quickly.
Okay, the hold fire. This is a bit of an interesting one this week because we're going to the only team that have won 4 from 4 this year, currently sitting top of the table, and we're going to talk about Arsenal as the hold fire. Typically or previously, we've spoken about teams in the hold fire that have been struggling, that we expect them to obviously become good and sort of pick their form up. Arsenal, this is kind of the reverse of this. Now, I'll preface this: we're not saying that Arsenal are obviously performing to the maximum and they're going to taper off, because I mean that's just not what we're suggesting here. But we just want to have a look at them because 4 games in, yet to play any of the top 6 or big 6 teams. But they've not been short of a test out of those few games. Obviously, they started off with a Crystal Palace win. It wasn't pretty by any means. They didn't scrape through, but it wasn't a telling win. They beat Leicester, I believe it was 4-2 in the second week, and then a pretty comfortable win at Bournemouth, and then probably the toughest test came at the hands of Fulham this weekend, after going behind and having to come back there. But are you seeing enough from Arsenal at the moment to convince yourself that they can push for a Champions League spot this year? I'm liking what I'm seeing, but I've just got to wait and see until they play a top 6 team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing progress. I think that's probably the best thing. I'm not sure many Arsenal supporters would have thought, well, look, we're going for the league. This is our year. It's yet. We need to see more, obviously, to know whether they can finish near the top. I think in the small sample size we've seen, just get 4 wins from 4. It doesn't matter who you're versing. I mean, everyone else has dropped points. That's the thing. They've gone and won every single game so far. They're putting the points on the board where they need to. So Champions League is well and truly on the cards for them. I think it's going to be a super close year in terms of the whole top 4. I don't think, probably with the exception of City, who I think will just probably run away with it with the way they score freely. And we saw on the weekend that City it doesn't matter if they go concede a couple, they can score 4 like that. But I think the rest of the table is going to be probably from 2 to 6 is going to be quite congested. So they're well within a shout for Champions League, but as far as the total goes, we need to see. I'm pretty sure Arsenal play United, not this fixture, but next. So it's going to be a huge test for them to see what they're really made of.
Yeah, I think that is going to be their first proper test. It'll be their first big 6 side. But they've done what they needed to do, given the start they've had. Obviously, the next fixture, Villa. So their first 5 games on paper, you'd look at it and see that they're 5 games that they should win. Now, the Arsenal of the past year, 2-3 years, you couldn't guarantee any of those games to be a win, because such is the form, I suppose, of Arsenal over those 3 years. They seem to have rectified that, because they've managed to pick up the 12 points. So, they've done well. They've recruited well in the summer. winter for us here in Australia, but they've recruited well. Gabriel Jesus has probably been the best signing. Well, besides maybe Erling Haaland. Yep. He's been top for them. Zinchenko's been good as well. So that they've made key improvements in key areas for them. They've scored 11 goals, which is the second highest out of any team so far, and conceded only 3, which is the joint second least conceded goals. So they're hitting all the areas correctly. But we really just need to wait and see what happens against the Big Six side, and United will prove that first test for them.
Yeah, the point you made about them just getting 12 points from a possible 12 and winning those games is the biggest thing for me. That's been an Arsenal trademark, that they just go and drop points where it's almost not been a foregone conclusion, but they've been heavily favoured to grab the 3 points, and they somehow, through some dumb mistake, go and drop 2 points. So that's the progress for me that makes them a Champions League a top 4 contender. But yeah, we need to see a bit more before we go any further with their ambitions.
Yeah, well, I want to hear from the Arsenal supporters in the comments. See if are we fair to be putting Arsenal in this hold fire? We got to wait and see what's happening. I want to know if the Arsenal fans are agreeing with what we say, or whether they're just absolutely riding high at the moment and think they're going to win the league. So we don't think we're being unfair by putting them in here. I think it's a fair comment. So, but interested to hear what an actual Arsenal fan would say. So, but Taz, that's going to wrap us up here for the review from last weekend, should I say. God, it's fourth weekend, and I'm already thinking it's the end of the season.
Oh, wow.
So, no, we appreciate you for listening. If you are new, we're close to our sub goal of 500 subs before the AFL grand final. We're close. We're very close. So if you are new and you're not subbed, please do so. Help us hit that goal. So we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.